In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make these beautiful, really simple and easy to do scrunchies. So we're going to start, and the equipment that we need are a pair of scissors, a hair bobble. Any hair bobble is fine. I prefer these ones that don't really have a join, and some yarn. You really don't need too much, so scrap yarn is fine for this project. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to start with a slip knot. To do a slip knot, we will yarn over, I like to yarn over 2 fingers, put our hook under the first yarn, pull the back yarn through in a cross, pull, and then we have our slip knot on our hook. We're going to pick up our hair bubble, and we're going to hold our hair bubble like this so that the yarn crosses over. I'm then going to pick my yarn up from behind, pull it around, and then I'm going to yarn over my hook one more time, and I'm going to pull through the first loop and then pull through the second loop. I promise that that is the hardest part. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to go back into our loop, and I'm going to be holding my hair bubble like this now, so on its side. Draw up my loop, and then the working yarn that's behind, laying this finger here, I'm going to pull it through both loops on my hook. At this point, you can scoot your stitches along and pull just to make it nice and tight. We're then going to go into our hair bubble, draw up a loop, and I'm holding my tail, as you can see, along the bobble, so that we're going to be crocheting over the top of that. We're going to pull through both loops and repeat this process, and we're going to keep doing this all the way along the hair bubble until we've covered the entirety of the hair bubble. And as you keep doing this, you will get sort of faster and faster as you get used to the technique. And as you can see, as I'm doing this, like I said, I'm working over the tail of my yarn where I joined on. So we just keep going, and I find it really useful to hold the hair bubble like this. So you sort of, I'm holding the yarn with my hand. The working yarn runs in between my fingers at the back, and then it just makes, the process a lot smoother and easier to follow. I see some tutorials and they're holding it in different angles, and I find it very confusing to follow videos. And yeah, I can see, I let go of my tail. I can see where the confusion starts to set in. So as you can see, really, really straightforward. At any point, if you need to scoot your yarn along, you can do. And just keep going round and round. I think you'll do this sort of over 100 times, so yeah, you do get used to it once you're doing it, and it is quite easy to follow. So like I said, into the bobble, pull up a loop, draw up a loop from behind you, and then pull that loop through, and just keep repeating. I actually quite like this colour. quite nice actually, isn't it? It's like a off-white, it's like an off-white cream kind of colour. But you can also do colour changes with this as well, which I'll get into shortly. So I've come to what looks like the end, but if I scoot my stitches round, you'll see that you give yourself a lot more space. So just keep pushing them, otherwise you'll have some gaps in your hair bubble and you want it quite nice and tight around. So again, looks like I'm coming to the end, but I'm going to see how this looks when I scoot up my stitches. And as you can see, I've given myself even more space. So the more stitches you put in, the more the band underneath will be covered and the more volume you'll give to your hair bubble. Okay, so any more? Yeah, I'll put a few more in that. Okay, so once you're quite happy that your hair bubble is covered, it should look something like this. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go into our very first top section of our loop. We're going to slip stitch into that loop, and then I'm going to chain 3. Once I've chained 3, I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to go into the same stitch and I'm going to put in a double crochet. Then I'm going to yarn over again, go into the same stitch and put in another double crochet. Then I'm going to chain 2. Then I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to go into the next top of the stitch, and then I'm going to put in 3 double crochets. All into the same stitch. And then I'm going to chain 2. Then going to yarn over, I'm going to go into the next stitch along, and then I'm going to put 3 double crochets into that stitch. And as you will see, we'll start to form these little peaks. So once we've done our 3 double crochets, we chain 2, yarn over and put 3 more double crochets into the next stitch. And this is what is going to form these bumpy parts on our scrunchie. So again, into the very same stitch, whoops-a-daisy, into the very same stitch, we're going to put 3 double crochets. Then chain 2. into the next stitch, again 3 double crochets. Chain 2, and then again back into the next stitch and put in 3 more double crochets, and chain 2. Now you'll start to see that these ridges will form, and we're just going to now continue that in every single stitch that we did at the start. So it's 3 double crochets into a stitch, chain 2 into the next stitch, 3 double crochets, chain 2. So I'm going to continue off camera, and I'll meet you back once I've started to build this up and I get to the other row, rather than you just watch me do the same thing over and over. If you do have any questions, if you pop them down in the comments and I will be sure to answer. But so I've come to nearly the end now. I'm just going to do the last one with you, where we're going to put in our 3 double crochets. This may be quite tight to get the crochets in, as you've got so many stitches. You might have to battle a little bit with your hook. And then we're going to chain 2. Once we've chained 2, we're going to find the top of the stitch that we did first, and we're just going to slip stitch into that round, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the top of one of the stitches so that I'm above a stitch or above a double crochet. At this point we're going to chain 3 once again, and then once we've got our chain 3, we are then going to yarn over and we're going to put a double crochet into each one of these stitches. There will be no chains or anything in this round, just very simple. Into each one of the stitches we're putting in a double crochet, and we'll just keep on repeating this until we get back to the front. To help you, you can pop in a stitch marker at this point, so I'm going to do that actually, just so that I know where I am. Oh my goodness, I'm running out of stitch markers. I'm doing another project at the moment, and I've got stitch markers in all of it, all over the place. There we go. So I popped in my stitch marker so I know when I'm back at the beginning. So we're just going to continue on with this for the whole of the round, and as you will see, then each one of these curls becomes a little longer. So I'll do a few more and then I'll complete the others off camera. So I'll do a few more and then I'll complete the others off camera. I'm sure you don't want to sit here and watch me put over 100 double crochets into all of this round, but this is quite a quick part of the round. So as you can see, it does build up pretty quickly, and it doesn't take too long. So once I've got to this point, I'm just going to continue on with this round, and then I will join you for the next part of the round when we get back to our first stitch of the round. So I'll meet you back there. I'm putting in the last single crochet now, and then I am going to join onto the first chain. I'm going to leave a tail and draw through and cut off. Remove my stitch marker. Now, if you held your tail at the beginning, that will be hidden within this section. If not, you can go ahead and weave that in now. I'm going to just thread my needle with the remaining yarn that is on my, or attached to my scrunchie, and then I'm just going to weave the ends in and out of the scrunchie and just disguise the ends within. So there we go. Once you're happy that they're disguised enough, we can cut off our yarn, and there we will have our scrunchie. So I used a thicker yarn for this one. As you can see, it's much bigger, but exactly the same way I made it. And these look great, even just on your wrist, look. So yeah, they're perfect. They're great for in stores. You can sell them at markets or on Etsy. Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed my tutorial and learned something new. And happy scrunchie making, guys. Enjoy.